sure there's places though.
Oh no, it's good little spots.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's good little spots, but just as a whole, just like how Houston, and it's the people there, like just the energy.
yeah,
You know
like
what I mean?
literally, that's yeah. I think after literally,
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah, you already sold on Houston, bro. It is.
I was sold after probably day
Yeah.
day 3.
Day 3.
Day 3. I was like, yeah, this is dope.
Nah,
So
fact.
that's a small because when I was reading a story, I thought it said Richmond. Oh, so you grew up in Richmond?
Yeah, I'm from Richmond, Virginia. I own 4 mental health outpatient companies, so I was able to expand my mental health company to Houston. So that's what led me to get to Houston. I was able to get a big contract for my
Okay. See, that's interesting because I think that's something I want us to touch on later.
Yeah, for sure.
Before anything, listen, thank you for coming on the podcast.
For sure, man. I appreciate it.
And I don't know if your money's gonna watch us as well, so I appreciate it to her because obviously, like, she was doing the coordinating. You know, she said she saw it on. Yeah, I don't know what clip she saw on TikTok.
Yeah, I don't. She like I said, she just hit me, but she do a good job. She been putting me, you know, in good spaces and good venues, you know, linking with good people like you. But she knew I was coming out here. She was like, yo, I found some dope guys, you know what I mean? And so that's how we got here.
Yeah, thank you, man. For those listening, watching, Thinking Out a podcast on grief and mental health, I'm joined by George here today, all the way from Houston, a good city, one that I've been able to experience firsthand.
Beautiful
as well. So thank you, man. I appreciate you coming on.
Definitely, likewise.
Trying to delve into your story, your highs and lows, and just everything. But obviously, before all of that, just I wanted to just kind of delve into like, growing up, what it was like for you, and sort of kind of finding out, how, the lows that affected you mentally and how you sort of overcame them. But yeah, so just a little bit about.
So like you said, I'm from Richmond, Virginia, inner city, and everything that comes with the inner city, the hood, drugs, killing. When I was growing up, Richmond, Virginia was like the murder capital in the United States. It's a little bit better now, but still dealing with some of the same dynamics. But basketball is my life. So I've been an athlete my whole entire life. I was luckily my oldest brother. I'm the baby boy of 5.
Okay.
But one of my next to oldest brother was a phenom. So we are 10 years apart. So
what, sir?
A phenom is a term we use back home when you're just like super good. You're elite in your age. So like he was the number 1 12-year-old in the nation, and like 13-year-old. So like where our whole life was just basketball consumed because of him. Because we're traveling in America. I don't know if y'all have AAU is this program that's in the summer where if you're an elite basketball player, you travel around.
Okay.
And so my brother, we went all around America, and I was just a little kid following him. So like growing up, I just wanted to be like my big brother.
Yeah.
And life evolved. He, like I said, he's 10 years older than me. He went and played professionally across seas. But as I got older, I became into my own. Yeah. So now I'm becoming, an elite athlete in basketball. And so basketball was able to take me all the way to getting a college degree. And so I dealt with a little bit of ups and downs younger. I was able to go to a prep school for basketball, which, you got to be real good to go play into a prep school. But then I was able to get a college degree, a college opportunity to go play in college. And my first incident with just being in just some crazy stuff was the friends I hung with at that time, they sold drugs. And so I didn't, but these are my boys. This is what they do. It is what it is. And I had a friend from out of town come in town and was looking for drugs. I connected them, and the situation played out, ended up being a kidnapping. And so it went all the way to court. Make a long story short, I was facing like kingpin charges, meaning that I set it all up. And I didn't know that it was going to be, a kidnapping after I was just linking some guys together to do whatever they do. And so my college opportunity almost got taken away from me because of that situation. Luckily, my friends got up there and they kind of stood tall and said I didn't know nothing about it. But my friends went away for 4 years. They got sentenced and, went away to jail.
Yeah.
I was able to get out of that situation just solely off of my friends just being, you know, stand-up guys, and I went away to school. I'm now at school. I evolved. I became, you know, basically one of the best players ever to come through my school. They just recently, basically, I went into the Hall of Fame at my school, and I took my school to the NCAA tournament, which is kind of like, that's like the grand finale that you're always trying to do.
Yeah.
And so now I'm at the back end of my basketball career, and there's a lot of different things that we can kind of go in detail as we go. But basically, I was in a armed robbery one night. My best friend had just graduated, and I ended up fighting 5 guys like downtown Richmond, where I'm from, and it tore my thumb ligament, and I was up to come actually cross seas to play professionally. And so that incident basically ruined my basketball dreams. Yeah. And so I had to enter straight into the workforce after that part.
Damn. But it seems that a lot of the, like you said, you know, your friends, you know, doing what they're doing, but you're not part of it. But even, it's crazy because you're not part of it, but even just something so, well, I say minor, something so minor as saying, oh, this is where you can go, could literally be turning your life around like in an instant. You know what I mean? So, but at that point, you know, I call it like maybe like sounds like a close shave. So literally, like they would literally you. Let me phrase this properly. I don't want to say got away with it, but literally like a close call.
No,
so
right.
like, at that point, what was you thinking? Was you thinking, what was you sort of thinking when, right, this could have really gone left for me?
It was a eye-awakening moment because just that quick, you know, everything that I was working for at that point, you know, could have been taken away.
Yeah.
And so I kind of looked at it like a second chance, and it kind of springboarded me to get into school. Like I literally left court and had my stuff packed in my car and drove to school and was like, yo, I'm never going back to Richmond ever again. Because I kind of was just, I saw what was happening. I saw that my friends was going away. They played basketball as well, but you know that our life for so long was on the same path, and at this one moment, they went to prison, I went to college.
Yeah. And
so I kind of learned that moment, and you know, I kind of, it helped me focus when I got to school, and it made me, you know, my focus drive on school and working on my skill on the basketball court kind of just heightened because of that opportunity.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was kind of like my childhood in a nutshell. Until, you know, that was the first kind of incident I had got into like legally.
Yeah. Like, but even just because it seems like basketball was like not all or nothing for you, but it seemed like that was your main.
Yeah. Where I'm from, man, you know, just to be transparent, where I'm from, you either the highest that people make it is you get a job at being a postman at the post office, or you work at like this a warehouse called Philip Morris where they make cigarettes, or you just in the hood, you trapping, you know, you selling drugs, and you know, people don't really make it to the NBA where I'm from or go play professionally sports. So you know how far you take it where I'm from, it's not a lot of options to make money and those type of things. So basketball was just how we lived our life. Like, yo, this is our way out. This is gonna allow us to get to school. This is gonna allow us to hopefully someday play professionally. And so that was kind of like my journey, if I summarize my childhood. But like I say, when that incident happened post college, basically when I was about to transition to go play professionally, that's where kind of like my relationship with my brother that I referenced picked back up. He had a mental health outpatient company, and he kind of just, as a big brother would, was like, yo, I know what just happened. Come work with me.
Yeah.
And so I transitioned to working with him. I moved from Virginia at that time to DC, the DC area. And I basically started learning this industry that, one, I didn't really care about at that point. I was just like, yo, I got to start getting money now. Like, school over, what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And so my time there, I ended up learning the whole business. And basically, we were providing mental health services for kids that, you know, had behavior issues and those type of things.
Yeah.
That was the business, but I took it upon myself to just learn from A to Z how to operate this whole business.
Yeah.
And so, you know, life is happening. I'm starting to make money now. I did end up playing semi-professional ball in the States, but it wasn't really making me money. And me having this entrepreneur mindset was just like, yo, like I could do this on my own. And so I had developed this dream that like, yo, like I'm working with my brother now, but I want to eventually go my separate way and start my own mental health outpatient company. And so that's what I did. I was able to start my own mental health outpatient company, and it grew and it grew. And I had an opportunity, later, maybe 2-3 years, to expand to Houston, Texas.
Okay.
And there was a couple crucial things that happened. That same friend that I was in that brawl and at gunpoint and I fought out of, his mom ended up dying. And so that was like, at that point, the closest I had ever seen death. It wasn't my mother, but this was like my best friend. And so that it was a traumatic situation. I ended up leaving work one day, and me and my brother relationship at that point in time was just kind of crumbling. I kind of speak deep on, if we're 10 years apart, if I'm 10 and you're 20 and I'm a kid, you kind of can't do no wrong. I don't really know about character. I don't really know about morals. I don't really know about just the makeup of a man at that point. And so I grow up, and now I finish school, and now me and my brother are living together, and now I'm a man now. I'm a young man. He's an older man, 10 years older than me. But now it's certain things that I value different now, just like how you handle people and those type of things. And so me and his relationship had changed because it was like, yo, you're not the hero that I always wanted to be or grow up or whatever the case may be. So
sorry. So what age was? So this was what age were you at that
so
point?
after college, I was 21, 22.
Okay, yeah.
He's 31. But
okay, yeah.
But me and him hadn't lived together since I was a kid, because he had went away to school, and so our relationship just started going left. And basically it ended with a fist fight. He was like lying to my mother a lot, and I just kind of, as a man now, kind of approached him, and our relationship just went left. I now transitioned to Houston. I got this opportunity.
Yeah.
I'm in Houston now. I'm making $80,000 a month. I'm lit. I'm at the spots. I'm living that life. And I get a call one day from a mutual friend that was still working with my brother back in DC, and that was the first time that I found out that he was in like some legal troubles.
Okay.
This whirlwind of what my book ended up, going into detail about, it picks up at that point right there.
Yeah.
When I found out that he was going through some legal troubles. And man, we could sit right here all day, and I could just talk about all the different ups and downs. But man, what he chose to do was he was doing fraud. And if you know kind of like how our system works, especially dealing with the federal government, is when those people come and got you, if you could think of something or figure out a way to leverage or be like, hey, well, it wasn't just me, it was this person and this person.
Okay.
He took the decision to put my name in something that I didn't even have a relationship with him anymore.
So so this, your brother basically dropped
well, he
dropped you in.
He put my name in a federal investigation, which was at that time one of the biggest federal investigations going on in that area of Virginia.
Wow.
And so what happens with that is, man, the federal government started coming to my office in Houston. They started interviewing people that knew me. They subpoenaed all my bank accounts. I lost all my banks. And basically called me one day and said, hey, we are about to prosecute you. And I basically had to transition into getting a lawyer.
Yeah.
And basically it started this 4-year journey of just like a downward spiral of just my family falling apart, and it just flipped my life upside down. And basically, and it gets even deeper, but basically, I just was struggling at this time. Now I'm making a lot of money, but at that I wasn't able to take on the mental toll. Like, why my big brother doing this at this time? And we got the same mother, and it would just tear my family apart. And it came to a point where I was paying $20,000 a month to try to take care of my lawyer, to hold off this situation for them to do a full investigation, and that took 3 years.
But did you ever something like that, your that's your blood. Did you ever, maybe not directly, but did you ever get the answers to like why? Because the reason I asked that, because beforehand you mentioned that you guys had a fight. So was it something maybe out of spite?
Yeah.
Do you feel, or what do you feel that the main reason?
So it get real deep. I haven't spoke to him, and I'm gonna speak about my other brother later, but I haven't spoke to him since. And at that moment in time when we was in the midst of this and we didn't understand all the dynamics of what was going on, it was conversations he had with my mother, and basically he was saying, you know, he did what he had to do.
Wow.
And that was his stance. And it was just eating me up at that time, man. Man, I went through all different types of ups and downs and thoughts. It got to a point where I flew to DC and slept outside his house. I had a gun with me and everything. He never came home. And so, you know, luckily that went that way, because I don't know what would happen if he had came home. That's just mentally where it got to me. And basically, man, you know, in the midst of this is where my mental health it flared up, and it was like, this a thing now, because never in my life up until that time that mentally I felt like I was struggling. And like I told you, I've been an athlete my whole life. This one day I remember going into the gym, which is something I always do, and I warm up on the bench press. So I would just get the bar, no weight on it. Yeah. As a man, that's like easy weight, right? But I always go like do 20 of them just to warm up. And this day I went to go get on the bench press, and I couldn't lift the bar. And I was like, I'm tripping. Like, maybe I ain't take a nap today, or I ain't eat good or something like that. So I remember going to the front of the gym, got like a little Snickers or something and a Gatorade, went back to the bar, and I literally still couldn't lift the bar up. And I remember leaving out the gym like, yo, I'm not, something is wrong. And I remember just sitting in the car and just like, yo, like, I'm like messed up. And I ended up going to a doctor. Remember, I did a physical. She was like, yo, you like in the best shape of anybody I work with. And she started asking like, what's going on in your life? And we started probing, and I started sharing what was going through. She was like, yo, like you're depressed, you're in a mental breakdown. But, you know, I'm coping with, I'm getting money, you know, the outside not realizing what's going on because I'm lit. I'm rich, basically. But I'm just getting drunk all the time. You know, but that's what I'm doing to cope with what I'm literally living in. Yeah. But the whole time I was depressed. And it just reached a point where my brain was just fried. My brain couldn't even tell my arms to like lift this bar that we could lift any other time. And so to kind of summarize now, and I'll pick out different details that was like crucial, but after 3 years, the federal government had to go before the judge and say that they was wrong. They took the word that my brother had said and basically said that like they're gonna go their separate way. Yeah. But the way our legal system works is that when the federal government come to you and you don't fold and you don't take a plea and just be like, hey, and you beat them, you're forever gonna be a target. You ever gonna be on their radar. And so they had to go before the federal judge and said that they made a mistake. But I remember speaking to my attorney, he was like, yo, they going their separate way, after I had spent like $300,000 at that point. And I was like, yo, they can do that? They can just come flip your life upside down and then one day and be like, no, man. And that's what happened. But my attorney said like, yo, just make sure you living how you need to live, because they could come back. And 9 months later, they came back with a whole nother case with my oldest brother. And what had happened was because I had defeated them the first go round, they went and was just trying to find ways to try to, you know, lock me up. Went to my taxes. My oldest brother was my tax preparer. Went back to the first year that I had graduated from college, and he did my taxes. Yeah. Basically investigated him, found out that he had did over 300 incorrect tax documents, and basically leveraged him and said, hey, we're gonna lock you up and take your business, or you can work with us to lock up your younger brother. And he went along with it. And so it was 7 months later they came with a federal tax evasion case. And basically my oldest brother worked with them to help himself out because he didn't want to lose his job or get locked up. And basically got on the stand and said that I lied to him my first year I did my taxes. And so at that point, man, after going through this first rodeo with one brother, and now this another brother come along with this ordeal, is how, you know, the title of my book, Double Cross, came about.
I feel like it's starting to...
Yeah, it started connecting. Sense. Yeah, and so I was about to go down a whole nother 3 years of fighting this case because it wasn't true. I didn't withhold anything from him. But my attorney just was like, look, man, we might have to fold. It's going to cost another $300,000. We could beat them again, and they'll still try to just find a way to do something. And so I took a plea, and a plea meaning that, you know, I basically said, I did do that. This is my first offense. Can y'all give me, you know, can y'all spare me? I had some very powerful people come speak on my behalf when in court, and the federal judge gave me 365 days on federal house arrest. So
wow.
Yeah, so basically I had to, when court was over, go back to Houston. They came and put the ankle monitor on me, and I couldn't walk out my door for a whole year.
Like that's
Yeah.
But even at that point, I can't imagine what that's doing to your mental health. Like, so at that point, obviously, prior to that, obviously you said you spoke to, was the therapist, right? As in when you couldn't, when you went to the
Yeah, and so I initially spoke to a doctor, but at that point in time,
doctor,
I didn't have a therapist yet. And so where my therapist picked up at is where, I got to the end of this journey. I had now been sentenced to my house for a year, which was better than going to a camp, so I kind of was like, look, I'm gonna just take that L on the chin. But now I'm sitting in this house, in four walls, and I'm just with myself. I'm looking back at a 4-year journey of how my life just went. My family had just, the relationships it just went away. In the midst of this, I had 2 children at the same time, just living a reckless, crazy life.
Yeah.
Just getting drunk all the time, coping with what I was dealing with. And now I'm looking back on these 4 years like, man. And so now I just was struggling. I was just dealing with all the mental toll of everything, and that's what made me be like, I'm gonna start with a therapist.
Yeah.
And so we started doing exercises, and I always share this story where, if you came and was hanging with me and my friends, me having a book is like, yo, what? You got a book? Like, bro, you don't even read or something like that. But the truth of the matter is that my book is really just the work that I did with my therapist. Journaling was something that my exercises with my therapist was. So every week we'll have our therapy session, and I had homework to your homework when we meet is like write down 5 things you never shared with your mom, or 5 things you wish you could have shared with your brother, and these type of things. And so I looked up after like 9 months, and I had 2 books of just exercises with my therapist. And at the end, just me being an entrepreneur was like, yo, I wonder if I could take all this material and put it into a book. And so that was the meat of my book, and I had somebody help me put it in a book structure.
Yeah. Like that's honestly, I have to. Well, I don't want to say I have to commend you, guys. I know, like, I don't.
I get it.
The reason why I say that, because sometimes, we always say, "Oh, you're so strong, but something like that is crazy. Like, not even once, but twice. And not only that, it's literally someone, like a family member, literally doing that twice. And you're thinking, well, like, but one thing I would say, obviously, it's good that you've come out the other side of that. And it's not, I can't imagine what it done to your mental health at the time, just being on house arrest, or just even thinking, like, why is this happening? So at that point, when you was at house arrest, would you say that's when you sort of start taking your mental health quite seriously?
Yeah, and it's crazy, man, because at that point, you gotta understand, at that point, I still do own, I owned 4 mental health companies. But I never saw myself as needing the actual services that my company provide. And so it was like a humbling moment, like, yo, it's crazy. I never even dove into my mental health. My time spent was always in reference to the mental health services that we provide to others. And so it was humbling, because that whole time of me being the owner, I thought I was superior, or like beyond even needing that type of help. So it was kind of like, I'm just like the people we provide services to. I'm not too good. I don't have it. The money is irrelevant. How cool I am is irrelevant. I got the same issues that these others have. And so it was that year on federal house, it was like the most humbling, time of my life. And I try to make sure my story don't end up being a sad story, because clearly anybody that go through that experience will be like, yo, this is super sad. But that year on federal house was the most productive time of my life. I learned so much stuff just about myself, 1, and 2, just the knowledge that I was able to use the internet and go learn. I still use things that I learned and tools that I mastered on during that time. But the biggest thing is just what I never took the time to just like, let me figure me out and understand like how I think like this, what traumas I went through. Those traumas make me think like that or move like that.
Yeah.
Those things. I never had took that time out because life was moving so fast. I got out of school. Basketball was my whole life. I got out of school. I started getting money. It got real lit. And now, it never was a time to just sit down and everything strip away from me in regards of being outside, people moving around. And now I'm just with myself. And it was the first time that I really sat down, just like, I gotta get locked in with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost like you wasn't like, because similarly, I feel like that same thing was what myself and a lot of us, we went from lockdown.
Right.
So literally, so everything came to a halt. I'm sure it was
Nah,
the same. Everything came to a halt.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Everyone, you have to sort of think, you're just literally indoors. Obviously, it's different, but one thing I sort of reflect on with the lockdown is like you're slowed down, so literally you have time to now think about
Right.
your because life can just go,
Facts.
go, and you don't
Facts.
even think about, okay, like, why am I like this? What's happening
Yeah.
around me? And unfortunately for a lot of people, it impacted like their day to day. So like, I'm sure businesses closed down.
Right.
Some restaurants took a hit.
Exactly.
Some didn't recover. Some, and unfortunately some people like are no longer here today because of that, because of the mental toll. And I always like when I sort of think about mental health, I always feel like the attitude towards it needs to be taken a lot more seriously, because a lot of the time it's not something that is openly discussed,
Right.
not just inside, but usually amongst men as well. It's not often something, and it's hard to really sit with yourself and really like examine past traumas.
Fact.
Like, why am I like this? But sometimes it may seem scary. It may seem like, but sometimes you have to really just do like a self-assessment.
Fact,
and
yeah.
just sort of like, everyone had makes mistakes, don't get me wrong, and you got to really assess yourself to realize, what, like, why am I like this? What can I do better? Because even just for me personally, like, I've never ever, and just a brief, I'm not sure I told you, just like a brief backstory. I never ever really thought about mental health or took it seriously up until I lost my parents, and that was the whole reason this started. So I think since then, just dealing with grief and having the sort of courage to, like, I want to do something with this. I don't want this to be in isolation.
Yeah.
So this was started during lockdown, just after a couple months into lockdown.
Damn.
I thought, what, this is like a way to help people, but also help me. And I feel like with mental health, like it's not a joke. Like you said, you can be blowing racks,
Right, yeah.
but
It's irrelevant.
but in here,
yeah, irrelevant.
it's not. It doesn't match, what you're portraying, what you're projecting. So I always feel like, listen, peace of mind is everything, man. Peace of mind is the most, like, I know that it's the cliche thing, but peace of mind over everything. Like, nothing else matters if you don't have a peace of mind. But the hard thing is trying to get there. And I guess I just want to segue into, like, how did you get to that level of, I would say, having like a stable, like, mental well-being. So I know you said if you're doing house arrest, you had a lot of time to think.
Yeah.
But were there like certain things you were, aside from, like, journaling, were there certain things you were sort of doing to sort of help you get to a place of being mentally like being mentally at peace with yourself?
So, the first thing I always do, because now I'm on this tour per se of speaking on my journey and speaking on mental health. I don't think you ever 100% got it, right? You just you more aware now, and you understand what triggers you, and you end up knowing about different things that help you cope with it. But I don't think I ever would just fully be like, I'm fully not dealing with mental health. I probably would never reach to that point, because life is happening.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna touch on death and where, like, where I connect with you in regards to death.
Mm-hmm.
But things that I've learned now when I had to lock in and how I'm gonna deal with this, because this is not going nowhere. I do hot yoga now, which is different. Where I'm from, people ain't doing yoga one.
Listen, I tried yoga once, and I said it wasn't for me, because listen, I thought yoga was a breeze. Like, you literally just sit down there, cross your legs.
Tough.
But I was like, this is tougher than
it's difficult. And then it intensified if you're doing hot yoga.
Yeah.
And so now I became like just speaking about that, because I know it's something that people are not doing, but it's something I do like twice a week. It's something like I need. And so it's hot yoga. It's therapy, of course, and then I don't think people, and it sounds corny, and I try to make sure I don't make it. I try to make it uncorny, but like breathing. I literally took a breathing class on, how to control your breathing, and you can control how you feel your feelings if you just know how to control your breathing. And so those things are very vital. Of like I know how to do it when I get anxiety. Now I know how to step to the side, do breathing techniques. Like I've been in the club. When I got off, I was in the club, and it was just like I wasn't used to being around people no more. And like now I got this sense of just being worried about people. Like literally in the club, like, let me go to the bathroom, and I'm doing breathing techniques in the club just to cope with being in that setting. And so just being aware is something, it is what it is. But to go along, I wanted to touch on like the death thing. I can't imagine, losing my parents, and it's gonna happen for everybody at some point, right? But talk about just this journey of just mental health. And when this is coming out, I share birthdays with my youngest nephew, which is my oldest brother's son.
Okay.
And he was murdered in June. And my role with him always been like a father relationship. I'm 5 years older than him, and now that upcoming like my birthday, that's coming. That's like that's like right around the corner. And so now I connect different with like people that have experienced like close death. And granted, it doesn't amount to losing your mom and dad, but like what that was for me was crazy. I still struggle with it. It's still a thing. And it's, me, this my nephew. We share the same birthday, so like growing up from going to McDonald's on our birthdays to Chuck E. Cheese to being grown and being outside and doing yachts, it's an experience that we always had. And like this the first year coming around, and it's like I ain't really looking forward to it. So like even hearing that date is kind of like, damn. But that's trauma, and it's attached to different things. And I know how I got tools now to deal with that. And so, just when you say that experience of just losing it's just like, dang, I know, to whatever extent that I can relate, it's just, I know that's difficult.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that because even I was gonna ask you with the birthdays, because you share the same, how do you, I guess the reason why, how do you sort of deal with that? Because I guess it'll be quite hard to enjoy your birthday, but also know that someone else's birthday that you're close to, and but they're not here to celebrate that day. And the reason why I said that because I had this I don't know if it's a trauma thing, but I had a thing where like I wasn't looking forward to birthdays myself because my mom passed away like my birthday's on the 10th of November. Okay. She passed away on the 30th of October. So I always felt like, okay, I'm not doing birthdays anymore. It's not because it's just, I know it's not like exactly close, but it's still kind of, so like October, November are always difficult because it's like, it's a time where, you should be celebrating your life, but it's also a time when her life ended. Right. So it's almost like
you feel guilty, almost like
there's like a sense of guilt, and I feel like I'm still kind of working. Well, I'll say I still kind of deal with it now in the sense where like there's so much like guilt and just this sort of like living in survival mode because like, and I don't want to sort of throw off your point too much, but I feel like I'm just sometimes in a spiral of just feeling like dealing with a lot of stuff because of the grief and not knowing that I feel like I'm just like coasting most of the time, like actually dealing with it, and that's something that I said to myself this year. I want to really address it and just be vulnerable with myself and say, look, like peace of mind. Like I said, peace of mind is everything, and I don't know. It's not. We can't always have our mind to have 100% all the time, but if I can get to at least 75, 80. Let's say like just see it as if it's a bar. Like if I can get that bar to 80, I'm cool.
Facts,
do you know what I mean? So I think
that
that's interesting what you said earlier because I think sometimes perception of mental health is that it has to be 100%, and I don't want to say like it can't be for some people, but
it ain't realistic though.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? It's not realistic, So I feel like if I can get to that 80 point, that'll be ideal. But sorry, I didn't mean to throw off your.
No. What you saying is relevant, and just I pride myself on just being transparent and just keeping it 100 with you.
Yeah,
I have no clue, bro. I might be out in the club and start crying. I don't know, because there's moments now that I just pause and just have a moment But I have realized that instead of bottling that stuff up and just be like, like I'm good, instead of taking the approach like men normally do, like, no, I'm good. I know I take the approach now, like, nah, that's hurt. It hurt. I just be transparent, like, that
Yeah.
really hurt, and like whatever come with that hurt and however that look like, I just wear that versus the approach of like, I'm good, don't worry about it, y'all, like I'm straight. I just be transparent, I'm just like, nah, I'm really hurt, and that's what my social media has became of
Yeah.
just me and being transparent, like, nah, I wanted to do a lot of gangster stuff to my brothers, but the truth of the matter, like, I was hurt. I wanted to be these guys. I was hurt that they did that. Like, I cried. I'm hurt that my family ain't the same. Christmas don't feel the same no more. It don't feel like love. I don't trust people no more. Like, family, the value of what family used to be to me ain't the same. When somebody be like, yo, that's your brother, that used to mean something. Like, man, that's my brother. Now it's just like, yeah, I mean, we got the same mom and dad, like whatever. Like, it don't mean the same. And so, like, and I'm gonna make this real short. What really made me start being like, dang, is when my kids now are coming up. I don't want to put that on them, because how I view family ain't right. It's just my journey and my trauma got my whole scope of just how life go and how family do you is different. And I felt myself at certain times pushing that on my kids, like, like, why you doing this, that, but like, you really your family supposed to be your family, supposed to be your backbone, that's supposed to be somebody you lean on, that's supposed to be somebody that's gonna protect you, somebody that got your best interest. It's supposed to be like that, but I was catching myself instilling that, like, yo, don't trust that. All right, that's your cousin, don't trust them, and that was wrong, and I had to have a moment like, yo, I can't move on my life like pushing how I feel about stuff on my kids.
I like how you said that, and do you know what? One thing I thought when you're telling your story is when you said you went to his house, sleeping with a gun, and you know what's crazy? If something happened, that could have been a whole different situation. You probably wouldn't be here.
Nah, facts.
So it's almost as if, like, and obviously I don't say it to, like, I'm just going off of the what you said, and I feel like it's so good to see, where you are, because at times, it's like and when they say an eye for an eye, you do, if you're doing me wrong, okay, I'm gonna do the same to you. But that cycle is just, and then you got to think to yourself, who would then sort of now, who would that affect?
Right.
Do you know what I mean? So of course it's hard, because it's in pride. If someone does you wrong or does you dirty like that, whether it's family or you think, nah, like, that's your pride is like, listen, you can't stand for that there.
Right.
But sometimes we look at the bigger picture, and I always feel like, how people talk of karma. It's hit and miss. I feel like, but I feel like, you know what, just it's hard to be the bigger person, but sometimes being a bigger person is the best thing to do, because as I said before, if something happened now, maybe this book won't be about, you won't even be, you know what I mean? It's a whole different thing. So I guess, like,
it's great, man, to go, and I ain't gonna go into all this different stuff, because a lot of stuff that have been transparent since then, like recently and everything. I learned so much with that moment. It's carried with me. It's a lot of stuff, dramatic drama stuff that happened, but since then, but understanding what you just said, like, yo, taking a certain different route and just being like, I'm gonna let that be because it could spill into something else. I do that now to the extent that people around me like, yo, you not gonna go address that or this, that, and third.
Yes.
And people look at me crazy like, yo, and I'm just like, nah, I'm gonna let that go.
Yeah, I think that's a good mentality to have, because sometimes you just say to yourself, you know what, like, you gotta think of. It's hard. I feel like it's hard to like. Of course, when you're younger, you make mistakes, and sometimes maybe you didn't know better at the time. But you see, when you get to a place, and that's not a certain age, that place of wisdom. It can be 5 years later, 20 years later. Like, there's certain things I know now I didn't know 20 years ago.
Exactly. Yeah.
And sometimes I got to think myself, you know what, like, I need to have peace. So, with certain things, listen, if, like, I'm not necessarily like a violent person, but if, okay, someone does something, okay, look, how is it big of a deal?
Right.
Is it like, because at the end of the day, like, something you do, if that's bad, it's gonna affect you. Do you know what I mean? So I think, like, now is also, again, we're not perfect, what I'm trying to say, but I feel like it's just about thinking, like, you know what, nah, I'm not gonna do anything. I'm not gonna do this, because at the end of the day, because you now in a place where like, your actions will have consequences, and you just think there's nothing worse than thinking, oh, why did I do that? It wasn't even that deep.
Right.
It
Exactly.
wasn't even that serious,
Yeah.
and you can't change it. So that's why I feel like you learning from the past is good because it helps you to kind of steer your future and
Mm.
how you want to go, and especially like when you have family, like like your children, you don't want them to be like, well, if you're in prison now because
Right.
you've done something to uncle and
Yeah.
that
How that's
uncle.
gonna make sense, right?
Yeah,
Like how to
and
yeah.
it's a cycle of
Yeah.
and again, I don't mean to say like to say what your kids will think, but it's almost it can be a thing where they're thinking like, what's happening? Why did this happen? And then
Yeah.
another that can even they can inherit some trauma that they shouldn't even inherit
Exactly.
because
Yeah.
of
Right.
the action. So
No, for
it
sure.
takes a bigger man to get to that place
Yeah.
mentally. But it's something else I wanted to like us to like segue for the remainder of the episode, and that's more to do with like stigma. Because when you said, oh, this whole thing of, oh, I'm good, like I think a lot of the time, I know like obviously you're from across the pond, and but I feel like there is that same stigma
Yeah.
with black men
Yeah.
in terms of mental health, where it's not um like I would say in our communities, it's not really the attitudes towards it. It's not really encouraging in the sense where you can just openly say something or even openly cry, and it's met with, it's not looked at negatively. Of course, things are changing now. Don't get me wrong, but
Yeah.
for you, like what were some of the stigmas, um, well, I say, well, yeah, what were some of the factors that made you feel like there was some mental health stigma when growing up, or even to this day?
No, I fully understand. I still to this day understand it, and I still struggle with it to a certain extent now, not as much. But growing up, man, especially in the communities that I'm from, that are like my community that I grew up from, it ain't a good idea to show where you weak at. And it ain't a good idea to be vulnerable in that capacity, because people leverage on that. People
Yeah.
use that. People step on your neck so they can elevate. And so you just grow up with this sense of, especially a black man living in those kind of communities, that you got to be the toughest. Nothing can hurt you. Nothing gonna penetrate you to bring you down, and you got to wear that. And everybody grow up like that, and that's just what the case may be. And the truth of the matter is, you know how much trauma going on. I got all my younger nephews and cousins been shot. They did all types of stuff. People dealing with drugs. People don't have the lack of their father. That's trauma. That's trauma that people dealing with. That ain't regular to just be good. And so you become desensitized. You're not sensitive to these things that hurt you no more, because you put on this front, and then one day it's gonna hit you. One day it's gonna hit you where you're just gonna break down and you're gonna crash. Which, what happened to me, and I explained my incident when I went to go work out, but it happened to other people in all different types of ways.
Yeah.
All different types of ways how they cope with themselves, and this and that and the third. I speak about and my younger boys, nephews and cousins that hang with me. It's big where I'm from. I don't know about here, but like popping pills, perks. That's a term that everybody do where I'm at. And the truth of the matter is, it's just everybody trying to deal with what they dealing with.
Yeah, no, it's crazy because I feel like a lot of the time that can be an easy coping mechanism, just whether it's weed, drugs, whatever. And so for some people, you realize this is short term. Yeah, it might be, maybe it soothes you.
Yeah. And I always make sure, and I always try to make sure I be transparent and not speaking about other people. I wasn't popping perks. I wasn't smoking weed. I was getting drunk. That's the same as whatever you doing.
Exactly.
I was getting drunk, and I wouldn't. My kids now, I wouldn't change it, for nothing now. But that led to me having kids, because the recklessness of how I was just moving. Yeah. But the root is I was coping with the moment that I was in.
Yeah.
I was just living in the moment. I'm telling my man, come on, bro, let's go out tonight. It's Tuesday. I'm about to just get drunk. Now, on the forefront, it's not looking like that to my friends. It's like, oh, we just out having a good time. Whole time I'm sitting there just trying to, for a moment, get away mentally of like, yo, I'm fighting the federal government.
Yeah.
And what happens as a man, and a lot of men, I'm just coping with like, I'm gonna occupy my time with this woman, or I'm gonna go hang with them, and I'm drunk, and this, that, and the third, and it led to me having 2 kids in the midst of this. And that's what the reality of where I was mentally. I'm just You know, I'm really hurt. I'm really hurt at the time, but
Mm.
I'm leaning on a woman to just console me for the time being, to just deal with where I'm at mentally because of how I'm just falling apart. But it don't look like that. I look great. I'm getting money. I'm having it. I'm got this. I got this. I can go here. But in actuality, bro, I'm hurt. And
Yeah.
you're not gonna be but so hurt hanging with your boy, right? I'm not gonna be my boy, like, bro. You know,
Yeah, you try to mask
yeah.
it.
So like I'm with these women just trying to cope with what I'm dealing with, and I didn't know at the time that was going on. When I speak about that year of on house arrest, is when I unraveled all this and was like, yo, like I don't even, you know, like, but I done made my bed. I got to lay in it, but understand how I got there and learning and moving forward. You know, learn from that, and it's a big lesson to learn from. But you know, that was my journey. That was my
Yeah,
journey.
like it's crazy because I was gonna say even like going out on a Tuesday, but then again, it's America is different going out on a Tuesday. Like, going out on a Tuesday, that you think going out that's crazy.
Nah, on a
Going out on a
Tuesday is on a
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
But-
On a Tuesday, we outside in America.
Do you know
So
what I mean?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
and it's just so, but it's good that you had that moment of reflection. But even like, I don't want to sit. Like, do you feel like if you wasn't on house arrest, do you think you would have come to that realization?
Nah, I wouldn't. I
So,
wouldn't. If my life was going on a trajectory now, of course I didn't got all that back, and I'm back, you know, where, you know, I was financially, and but I needed that at the end of the day, and that's me just being real with myself, taking on everything that happened, and I maybe that's how it needed to go. Maybe I could have been in a worse situation. I don't know. I mean, it's always a worse situation. Was my situation bad, and what happened, and what I lost, and the relationships has deceased and went away. But what I learned on my journey was find your ownership in which you can take responsibility for, and just look at it at a different perspective. And that's what I was able to do, and that helped me cope with it. That helped me, instead of sitting around like, but my brothers did this to me and this, that, and the third. I ain't gonna get nothing out of that. I just sitting around and just got this bullseye on my brothers and whoever else did me wrong. I ain't gonna get nothing out of that at the end of the day.
Exactly. That's the thing. It's hard. I know you said a number, like you can't change the past, but the future, and that's the thing with the future. Of course, it's sometimes hard to really think about the future sometimes because you're so hung up on the past, and you know, and it can be crazy because you can't change change the past. You can't. But you think to yourself, okay, how can I move forward? And like similarly to you, where you said, you know, if you wasn't on house arrest, maybe you wouldn't have come to this point.
Right.
But sometimes I feel like I'm not saying that it was. I'm happy that my parents passed, but would I be the same? Like, would I have this mindset now?
Right.
I don't know. But so I guess in my case, that's like the silver lining in it. But of course, I wouldn't. If I could go back,
Right,
I'd bring my parents back.
Right,
But in the midst of that, you know, starting this and meeting so many people like yourself, and over the past 2 years that I've so my host Marlon and Ben, they're not here today, but the other two guys who do the podcast with, well, Marlon recently joined, but me and Ben, we started it initially as a two. Now it's three of us.
Gotcha.
So over those 2 years, a lot has happened. You know, like I got to be part of a book on grief. I wrote a piece in a book.
That's dope.
You know, so it's just something. And again, I didn't like, we didn't start this to think, oh yeah, let's see what we can. Literally, we was in the Starbucks thing. Okay, let's start a podcast on grief.
Right,
Let's just document, you know, our feelings. But it transpired to be something much more fulfilling.
It
so it's
grew,
literally,
right.
yeah. So you know, listen, if I could change what happened, of course. But I guess for me, this is like a way to give me like purpose. Do you know what I mean? And that's not to say, you know, I still don't. I deal with grief every day.
Right.
There's not a day where I don't think about my parents. But you know, every little helps. If this can help, you know, until the day I die, this gives me purpose to be like, you know, I want to help other people. You know, in that same position. So
I share the same story though. Like my book has turned into, I get something out of sharing my story and people being motivated. And like understanding that and understanding my mindset, like it's became a therapeutic piece of just sharing my story. And it got to be the same for you. You came into this space, just being transparent. You wanted to, share your story and kind of talk about these topics.
Yeah.
But I know like what I'm probably doing for you, doing the same for me. And that's what my book has became is this thing that starts this conversation where people just start sharing the trauma that they dealt with, not like mine, but they got their own journey, but we got the same common interest of like, yo, I went through this and this how I dealt with it, and we can share and brainstorm and bounce these ideas back off.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate it. Honestly, like I'm thankful. Like I said, we got to have this conversation because even just I feel like you've really given me an insight into your story, and one thing that really sticking with me is this whole mental health not necessarily has to be 100,
right?
Because
exactly.
Same way we're not gonna be happy all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost impossible. If we could, then someone point me to where I can get that and have that happiness pill all the time. But for the most part, like I said, for me, it could be getting to that 80 point, and I'm cool. For you, it could be 90 or do you know what I mean? It's different for everyone, So I'm really appreciative of you just like being transparent, because like literally that was
like what
you seem like you went through a lot.
Yeah,
and I can't imagine having that mental strength to just not once but twice.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that you're here to share your story. But just before closing, I want to just ask you, like, just for like, I guess people watching, but just in general, what sort of advice would you give to someone who's like having a hard time mentally at the moment, just based on your experience and your story? What's one thing you could you would sort of give them, just that you feel will help them?
It's a quote, man, that I kind of use. There's two quotes. And like I said, my background is basketball, so a lot of stuff is athletic and basketball kind of based.
Yeah.
But the first quote is every season got an end. Every season has an end. Like if winter it's gonna be cold, but at some point the winter gonna stop and the sun gonna come out. And for some reason that helped me. Like that helped me in the midst. I was like, it was a time where like I thought I was about to be gone for eight years. And in that moment I was like, it's that season gonna end at some point. If that does happen for me. But that kept me going on it. Like whatever space I was in right now, it's gonna have an end date.
Yeah.
It had an end date. And the last quote that I kind of stick to, and it's kind of like I'm attaching to my book and everything I do, is stay in the course. And I say that because
so that's stay in the course.
Stay the course.
Okay.
Stay in the course in regards of there's a lot of moments where I could have for example, when I was in the federal situation, I could have got out of a lot of that stuff of doing coward stuff. I could have helped them go do something over here. If I knew some knowledge of this, and the third, they was coming like, hey, you can help yourself out if you tell us about this person or this, and the third. And something that I always just was remembering, like, yo, I could duck all this and do that, but like, would I be able to live with myself in the mirror, like on the back end? And like the pride that I took on just staying the course and like, no, whatever's for me is for me, and whatever my morals and principles and how I'm gonna move, I'm not gonna bend in no kind of shape, form, or fashion.
I love that. And
so staying the course is something that I just attach myself to. Like you say about people doing stuff to try to throw you off and have you doing something, I just be like, yo, that ain't my course. That wasn't my journey that I set out to do, and I'm not gonna let nobody or nothing throw me off the course that I'm on. So that'll be the two quotes that I kind of would leave.
No, I think that's powerful, man. Because listen, like I said, I don't know what it's like, but the chance where you can easily fold or stoop to their level, like that's not an easy thing to. Well, not that I know, but I can't imagine it's not be an easy thing to do. So, that took a lot.
But it's pride in it now. Now I wear that with a chip on my shoulder, like, this is my story, this is what happened, but look at how I kept my dignity, and exactly. I kept it was difficult and everything, but I felt a way to get myself mentally out of that space, and it's a prideful thing for me, because a lot of people ain't able to get through out of those situations. A lot of people do a lot of cower and break their morals and principles to get out of different situations, but I wouldn't be able to sit in the mirror when I go and look I wouldn't be able to look at myself.
Yeah, no, it's true, and that's the thing. Sometimes having courage, it can be difficult, but what you said, it was maybe I'm not quite a word for it, but what's for you will be for you. And I say that because, sometimes, in your situation, you could have took the easy way out, but you know what? I'm standing my ground. I know, like, I'm not gonna go down that route. And sometimes it's hard because you don't know what's
No facts. What comes with that road?
What your road's looking like. So you feel, okay, in order to just for comfort, safety, you maybe you'll bend, and I'm trying to say, or you go that way because you feel like, nah, I don't want to. But sometimes, you know what, like what's for you will be for you, man. But listen, George, thank you, man. I appreciate this convo.
Likewise, man.
Just rounding off, like, just little, like, plug where people can find the book or more about the business as well.
Got you. Well, my book, Double Cross, George Johnson, is on Amazon. I got a paperback and I have a ebook.
Okay.
So you can get either one.
Nice.
All of my upcoming things that I'm doing, I'm heavy on Instagram at 2X Cross, the number 2X Cross. And I got my TikTok popping off now because I know y'all on TikTok.
Maybe I don't know if you can, maybe later, maybe if you can plug the TikToks. What I'll do, I'll just put all the links, all the socials.
Do that for sure. Yeah, I gotta get my TikTok up and rolling, but I'm creating content and everything. But my Instagram is my main social media, which is 2X Cross.
Nice. Right. Well, thank you guys for listening, and like I said, thank you to your team. Like I said, Imani, like, coordinating and stuff. I really appreciate the convo, and happy birthday, because when this comes out, it's your birthday, so happy birthday. Get lit in Houston. I don't know if it's going to be address or wherever it may be.
Like
get
that.
lit.
One of them.
I'll be there in spirit.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, thank you.
Love, man. Appreciate it.
I appreciate that.
Word.
And that's a wrap. Thank you for listening.
That was my best one, man.